Your daily election 2023 update. This is Election Fix, powered by Newstalk ZB.
Kia ora, I'm Raylene Ramsay, and this is Election Fix for Monday, the 2nd of October. Today, political editor Jason Walls talks us through Chris Luxon's day, which included the intense 2-hour interview on the Leaders' Breakfast. And Newstalk ZB's political reporter Sophie Trigger talks the campaign implications of Chris Hipkins Covid diagnosis.
Election Fix headlines.
Labour is taking a swing at National's plans to repeal the government water reforms in its first 100 days in office. Finance spokesperson Grant Robertson says National's fiscal plan fails to detail any funding for those promises.
The only outcome from that will be an increase in the rates bills of individuals and communities throughout New Zealand.
Local government spokesperson Kieran McAnulty says the only way repealing the reforms would work is if the new government then commits to funding councils.
They've gone around the country and promised councils that they would help them fund doing water services, but they haven't accounted for a cent of it in their fiscal plan.
The Greens have high hopes Chloe Swarbrick will retain Auckland Central and the party can win more electorates. Co-leader James Shaw has cast his ballot today alongside Wellington Central candidate Tamitha Paul. She's making a serious bid for the seat and the party's eyeing up Mount Albert and Rongotai as other potential shots. Shaw says they're going out to win.
I think that we have a chance in all four of them. Obviously, some of them, there's more favourable than others, but we selected those four on the basis that we could win in all of them.
Chris Luxon is frustrated with the criticism of his religious beliefs. In Newstalk ZB's Leaders' Breakfast this morning, the National Party leader defended his faith, saying it had been misrepresented. He told Mike Hosking his faith is essentially a set of values and how he treats others.
My mum's a counsellor therapist, my younger brother's a social worker. We were out, we were just taught to treat people well and help people. And so it's walk across the room, talk to someone different from you.
All the moments from the campaign trail. This is Election Fix from Newstalk ZB.
Now to our reporters out and about with the politicians. And Newstalk ZB's political editor Jason Walls is with us. Jason, Chris Luxon voted today. Who did he vote for?
Well, it was quite unusual. He came out of the voting booth and said, Te Pāti Māori. Actually, no, I'm kidding, of course. He voted for Chris Luxon, but and there was never any doubt, was it? He was always going to vote for him, and we had the stand-up afterwards where there was the obligatory, who did you vote for? And then it was, there should be no surprise. It was 2 ticks blue, but he bounded into that voting booth with his wife, Amanda. They were some of the first people to actually be there because early voting started today, and he had an entourage of camera people and radio journalists like myself trying to get as close as possible to take a little peek of what he was putting on that form. But of course, that's all they do that in private. So yeah, it's very traditional what happens. It was supposed to be Chris Hipkins was supposed to be doing it either today or in the coming days, but obviously he's been struck down by COVID, so he's going to have to do that. I mean, he's still got plenty of time for early voting, but it's a classic set piece on the trail, which I've now watched many times, and it's always the same jokes.
Yeah. So Chris Luxon is being accused of hiding from Hipkins. What's the story there?
It's an interesting one, this, because of course the press debate was scheduled to be on Tuesday night. That's the one in the South Island run by the press. And of course, being Hipkins has been struck out with COVID, he couldn't do that, which means that the choice was to reschedule or to change the people involved. Now, it was always quite clear early on that both sides wanted a leader versus leader debate. And when that was put to National's side, they essentially said that they couldn't find a time in the schedule. So instead of just letting bygones be bygones, the Labour Party has come out very strongly and accused them of running scared and not wanting to front up, which is ridiculous when you think about it. I mean, these things, like Chris Luxon can't just pick up and change at the last second. Things have been booked in for a lot of times. Like, yes, it would have been nice to see them debate, but it's not the only debate. There are 3 TV debates and the press debate, so he's not running scared, and I think it's quite pathetic from the Labour Party to characterise it like this.
Thank you, Jason.
Election Fix.
Political reporter Sophie Trigger joins us now. Sophie, Chris Hipkins has been struck down by COVID with less than 2 weeks until the election. What does this mean?
Yes, well, it's definitely not what Hipkins would have wanted so soon before the election, and just as Kiwis are starting to cast their votes from today as well. The Labor leader tested positive yesterday and said he would be isolating for 5 days or until he gets a negative test. So this means that the latest Hipkins will be back on the campaign trail on Friday, and it could be earlier if he can return a negative rat test before then. So 5 days off the campaign is definitely bad news for Hipkins and feels pretty unfortunate, to be honest, because he came to last week's leaders debate with sort of a newfound energy, which carried through the rest of the week. I think I mentioned in our last episode that he seemed to have a bit of a second wind on Friday's campaign event and brought a lot of enthusiasm to the walkabout. So this is probably going to disrupt that momentum a little bit. This does also mean that tomorrow's leaders debate is up in the air. National has thrown out a couple of suggestions, such as a deputy leaders debate between Nicola Willis and Kelvin Davis.
Grant Robertson spoke to media today in his place. What did he have to say?
Yeah, so on the topic of the debate, he's accusing Luxon of running scared and trying to slip out of the debate entirely. He says Labor's offered Luxon many dates to reschedule the leaders' debate, including most of next week, in fact. And Luxon apparently is not fronting because he knows there's holes in his policy, and Robertson's claiming that Luxon's got something to hide. We did put the idea of a Davis versus Willis match up to him, and he reiterated that it was a leaders' debate and both leaders should be up to it. And on the subject of Hipkins himself, Robertson said they will, of course, miss him on the campaign, and they had made a certain level of contingency preparations for events in which Hipkins would be unable to attend. But whether or not COVID itself was on their radar 3 years after the COVID election is perhaps another matter.
Thanks, Sophie.
Election Fix.
And that is Election Fix for Monday, the 2nd of October. Join us again tomorrow to get the latest update on everything from the campaign trail from the Newstalk ZB newsroom. You can also head to newstalkzb.co.nz/election 2023 for all your political news and analysis. I'm Raylene Ramsay. We'll see you tomorrow.